Morning, church. You know, to me, one of the greatest expressions of body is what we just did. It's harmony. It is wonderful to listen to the different voices blend all together and make this beautiful sound that individually voices couldn't make. They have to be combined together. And to me, that's what body's all about. Beautiful, beautiful thing. Last week we started talking about the challenge that I think we face as Christians of maintaining our sanity in an insane world. I don't know if you heard that Marvel Comics is proudly introducing to us a bisexual Superman. As if we need a bisexual Superman. What appears to be the goal of the cable networks? Is it to educate? Is it to challenge? Is it to ennoble? There are programs that do that. I appreciate some of the stuff on television that does educate, that does challenge, that does ennoble. Unfortunately, I would have to say that they seem more than ever to be interested in pushing the line ever further on explicit violence and foul language and sexual immorality. That really seems to be what they're obsessed with and what they're all about. Now, in light of that, how do we keep our sanity in the midst of this insanity? And what I would like for us to do is look at Jesus' answer, which again, as we talked about last week, goes back to attitude. In the Beatitudes, we find some basic rules, I believe, for sane living. Last week we looked at rule number 1, which is expressed in Matthew 5, verse 3, as blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Or, kind of rewording it to win, you first got to admit that you can lose. This morning, I want us to take a brief look at the next 3 rules for sane living, as found in Matthew chapter 5. Matthew 5, verse 4, Jesus says what? Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. So, rewording a little bit, you've got to allow yourself to hurt before God can comfort you. Our society runs, I believe, in many ways, insanely from any kind of pain. We are by far, per capita, the greatest consumers by a long shot of aspirin, Tylenol, and Motrin. Look at the incredible problems that we have today with drugs and with alcohol. I don't know if you're aware of this or not. If you're not, we have a huge problem in this country right now with fentanyl. Coming across the southern border and coming into this country and being used by way too many people. When I had a surgery a number of years ago and had some severe pain in association with that surgery, they put a fentanyl patch on me. And I appreciated at the time that it did ease the pain considerably. But my sister, who's a registered nurse, when she found out that they had put a fentanyl patch on me, she said, Dan, are you aware of what they just gave you? Well, I wasn't. I had no idea. She said, did you notice that when the nurse put that fentanyl patch on you, she wore gloves? And I said, well, I really didn't pay attention. But I noticed after she told me that, and every time that nurse touched that fentanyl patch or put a new patch on, she wore gloves. She said, just exposure through touching that fentanyl patch could kill her. That fentanyl is that powerful. People are playing with something that could kill them very easily when they mess around with fentanyl. I'm just warning you, warn your friends, warn everybody. That is nothing to mess with. But people are buying into this idea that if they can numb themselves, that somehow that's going to make things better. And really, increasingly, in this insane society, it breaks my heart, but I just see so many people, and they've just settled for being numb. They just don't want to hurt, and they'll just numb themselves. We're conditioned to run from pain, to replace pain with any other feeling just as soon as we possibly can. But here's the thing. To recover from pain, you've got to face it. I've got a very good friend who's an MD, and I was talking to him, it's been several years ago, about pain and dealing with pain and all the medications and things that go with pain and how increasingly, those are being regulated. And he said what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of these drugs that ease pain initially, if you stay on them long enough, they will actually increase your pain over time because your body ceases to respond to the drug, and in actuality, it will make things worse in the long term instead of better. He said you really are better off long term to deal with the pain as much as you can. You will suffer from it less than if you try to just keep on numbing it. In other words, and this is difficult, folks, man, it's hard for me, it's hard for everybody. It's all right to hurt. We don't enjoy it, but it's all right to hurt. One writer observed, and now I'm talking more about mental pain than I am physical pain, because honestly, what hurts more? A broken leg or a broken heart? I would say it's a broken heart, wouldn't you? Broken leg's no fun, but man, a broken heart's tough. Anyway, this writer observed that we now deal with grief as society used to deal with sex, shamefacedly, behind closed doors. And I would have to agree that that's true. People in our culture are trained not to show their emotions when it comes to the pain they feel and the loss of a loved one. It's chin up and go on. You look at most cultures and they don't operate that way. Man, if they're hurting, they let you know. They'll throw dust on their heads, they'll tear their clothes, go back, read the Old Testament scripture, or just look at how people mourn in the Middle East. They don't hesitate to show their pain. And long term, that's a healthy thing, a good thing, not a bad thing. But we really struggle with how to deal with pain. Now, let's go back to what Jesus says. Blessed, happy, are they that mourn? See, how do you even make that work? How can you be happy when you mourn? God's help really only comes when we allow ourselves to hurt. Now he's talking about hurting over, I believe, the sin that's in our lives, the mistakes that we've made, the people that we've hurt. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Now, here's what's interesting. You can't pick it up in English, but you can in the Greek. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted is in the passive. Now, passive means that this is something that is done to you, not something that you do for yourselves. In other words, God's saying, if you will hurt over your sin, if you'll let yourself feel what you need to feel about sin, I will comfort you. I'll provide comfort for you. The gospel really is good news only to those mourning sin. Psalm 51 verse 3, David, my sin is ever before me. Romans 7:24, after Paul has opened up and told about the struggle that he has with sin, when he was finally honest with himself about that command, thou shalt not covet. What a wretched man I am. Who shall deliver me from this body of death? Someone has written that we live well cannot ease the pain of no longer living nobly. How many people can afford to eat steak for supper and then they go to bed and they can't go to sleep because they've got indigestion because their nerves are just shot? How many people can afford to buy a yacht and sail around on that yacht, and the whole time they're on that yacht, they've got guards on that yacht because they're scared to death that somebody's going to come up and kidnap them or kill them? Just because you quote unquote live well doesn't mean that you live nobly. Grace, mercy, and forgiveness find their meaning and beauty in the context of pain. And I want you to think about that because I believe this is pretty profound. You really don't appreciate grace and mercy and forgiveness except truly in the context of hurting. You've got to allow yourself to hurt before God can comfort you. That is a painful truth, but it's sane. It is the way it is. And running from pain, excusing pain, hiding pain, whether it's physical or spiritual or emotional, isn't going to deal with it in a healthy way. Revelation 7:17, remember that promise? And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Wow. Next, beatitude. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And here, I think really what he's saying is only genuine humility is going to bring genuine rewards. By the way, the word meek here probably would best be translated something like power under control. But I really think it correlates very well with the idea of humility. In our crazy world, humility is viewed like some kind of a dread disease. Talk show hosts all want to brag about how smart they are, how canny they are, how wise they are, the size of the audience that they have, how the world absolutely depends on them to really know how to understand just about anything and everything. Sports figures. We were talking this morning about how so many kids now, when they're playing football or whatever it is, they have to celebrate after every play. Football, if a guy makes a tackle, he's got to flex his muscles, show off a little bit. Politicians, do politicians hesitate to let you know how great they are? How wonderful they are? How blessed you are because they happen to be in office? Just what is humility? I would argue that humility is truth. It's truth. It's being honest with yourself about yourself. Pride really is lying to yourself. It is choosing to ignore your weaknesses, to ignore your foibles, to ignore your failures, to act as if they don't exist when they do. And humility is a willingness to acknowledge those and face those and deal with those. Some test of humility. Can I accept criticism I know is true without being offended, defensive, or destroyed? That's a tough one. There are a lot of actors and actresses that will not read any reviews of their work. They absolutely refuse to, because if they read something that's critical of them, it just destroys them. And so they just refuse to acknowledge any criticism of the roles that they've played or the way that they act or write or whatever it might be. How concerned am I about who gets the credit? There are so many projects, I believe, that never get done because the people who could do it are concerned that somebody else is going to get credit for it, and if somebody else is going to get credit for it, I'm not going to do it. And that happens all the time. Am I as honest about my weaknesses as I am about my strengths? I love to play golf, watch golfers. One of the things that fascinates me about the really top-notch, world-class golfers is that they are as ruthlessly honest about their weaknesses as they are about their strengths. And one of the reasons they're so good is because they know if they've got a weakness, they'll work on it. They won't just focus on their strengths. They'll focus on their weaknesses because they know that there's just a hair's breadth between being great and being good. And that greatness, a lot of times, is a matter of a half a stroke around or something like that, which is, you make an extra putt here and there, or whatever it might be. But they'll look at their game, ruthlessly analyze their game. And if they see their areas where they need to improve, they will work and work and work on that, because they know that that'll make a difference long term in their success. And that's true in any endeavor. Doesn't make any difference. That humility that says, I'm not good at everything, there's some things I'm not good at and I need to work on, makes a huge difference in personal development. Look at those whom God has chosen in the past. It's fascinating. Moses. God chooses Moses to lead the children of Israel. Numbers 12, verse 3. What does the writer say? There wasn't a meeker man around than Moses. When God chose Moses to lead the people of Israel, remember in Exodus chapter 3, what was Moses' response? You got the wrong guy. Lord, I can't talk. Obviously, he was petrified to be up in front of people. What does God say? Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. I'll let your brother do the talking for you. Now, that's really interesting. You're going to lead the people, but your brother's going to do the talking. And they made it work, and it worked well. But here's a man who was very cognizant of his weaknesses. And yet God said, you're the guy I want to lead my people. Gideon, in Judges chapter 6, well, I want you to lead your tribe and some of the other tribes up north against the Midianites. What's Gideon's response? Once again, oh, Lord, you got the wrong guy. I don't think so. Not me. And he needs sign after sign before God finally can convince him that he can lead the people against the Midianites. Saul, in 1 Samuel chapter 10, when he is called to be king of Israel, what's his response? Give me the crown, give me the robes, look at me. He goes and hides in the baggage. And they have to go drag him out of the baggage and drag him up in front of people to anoint him as king. He does not want the job at that point. Solomon in 1 Kings chapter 3, when he realizes the responsibility that goes with being king and he's just a kid, what's he say? God, you're going to have to help me. I cannot do this by myself. And God will help him. God will bless him. But it's just fascinating to look at the characters that God chooses to lead, and invariably they're going, I think you've got the wrong guy. I don't think so. But God knows what they're capable of and what he can equip them to do. The fact of the matter is, and I went too quick back there, you can't serve your ego and serve God too. You can't. Genuine humility is going to bring genuine rewards. Now, Matthew 5, verse 6. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. And once again, that's passive. That is something that will be done to you and for you, not something that you have to do yourself. In other words, God, if you hunger and thirst for what's right, God is going to see to it that you're filled. Again, rule number 4 here, remember people have a tendency to find just what they're looking for. Chew on that one for a while. What's this crazy world hungering and thirsting after? How about drugs? Unfortunately, yeah. Are they available? Oh, yeah. If you want drugs, no problem in finding drugs. What about gambling? Man, it's even online now. You can't watch a game without the gambling sites all advertising, well, come play us, use us, that's always there. You want a scary thought? God honors unhealthy appetites. Listen to Paul, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 10 and 11. They perish because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. For this reason, God sends them a powerful delusion so that they will believe the lie, and so that all will be condemned who have not believed the truth but have delighted in wickedness. God is not going to twist your arm and make you believe the truth. He is not going to force you to buy into the truth. If you want to believe a lie, He'll let you believe a lie. We are free moral agents. We do have the power to choose whether we believe the truth or whether we try to embrace error. Okay? And God's not going to force you to believe what's right. At the same time, want a reassuring thought? God honors healthy appetites as well. And He does. So what are you hungry for? Honesty, gentleness, mercy, forgiveness, truth, love, understanding? Man, I hope you are. I think you are. I think all of us really, that's what we hunger for. Wouldn't it be a wonderful world if that's what characterized our world? If when you interacted with people, what you found, honesty, oh yeah, everybody's honest. Gentle, merciful, forgiving, people tell you the truth. They seek your highest good. They want to understand what's going on with you. Can you imagine how beautiful this world would be if that were the case? Well, God promises to fill you up with that. And He will. Remember Daniel and Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid? Now I'm dating myself, but I think most of you probably, even the young ones, have seen Karate Kid at one time or another. Daniel didn't understand what painting fences and washing cars had to do with learning karate. Remember? Mr. Miyagi, you paint the fence, wax the car. You know, he's got him up and down and around. And Daniel's like, what? But Daniel did it anyway, didn't he? And then he found out what he was hungry to learn, he was learning. And he didn't even realize it. But those were exactly some of the motions that just needed to be automatic in him if he was going to succeed in learning karate. He learned without realizing it. I believe in a similar way. God is filling us with righteousness. As we do the basics, He's transforming us in ways that others may notice long before we do. And that's a beautiful thing as He fills us up. So, how can we live sane in an insane world? Well, remember, to win, first, you've got to admit you can lose. Okay? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Second, you got to allow yourselves to hurt before God can comfort you. Blessed are they that mourn. They'll be comforted. Only genuine humility will bring genuine rewards. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Why? Because people have a tendency to find just what they're looking for. And God says, if you're actually looking for what's good, if you're looking for what's right, you'll find it. I'll make sure that you find it. And you'll find it to the point that you're filled completely with it. I'll satisfy that need. So what are you after? May God gift us all with His sanity in this crazy world. This morning, if we can help you as you maneuver through this crazy world, if we can pray with you, if we can watch as you make that confession that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, as you put on your Lord in baptism, as you commit yourself to serving Him, and I believe commit yourself to walking sanely in a pretty insane place. If there's any way we can help you, won't you come while we stand and while we sing?